Hello, everyone. Hi, Renshin.
Hello, Joshin.
Nice to see you, and nice to see all of you. So, I'm not going to be around for very much today, but I just wanted to say hello. I've missed you all. Really appreciated you all taking care of this place while I've been away training in Vermont, and I'm going to be away again soon. I'm going to be spending the next month or so on solo retreat. So I've spent maybe the last couple of months basically working on love, on kindness, compassion by training at Maple in a certain way. And of course, I was also working on love the whole other time. And it's not that as a teacher I don't practice love, but I got to work on love in a certain way for these past 2 months. Being the care role in charge of the emotional well-being of Maple for a little while was really rewarding and exciting and fun and challenging. And I grew a lot in terms of love and feeling my heart. And now, these couple of weeks, I and Soryu are going to be working on power. We're going to be trying to fundraise for the organization, making connections, meeting people, helping to crystallize a vision that we can share with other people. And then after that, for the next month or so, I'll be working on wisdom. Getting free from all views, all perspectives, all ways of seeing things. And in the meantime, I trust the leadership of the organization with Soryu Forall, and also with Pan and Koshin and everyone else. And I trust you all with Renshin, who I'll just say very briefly is a good friend. The talk today is going to be about 4 types of good friends, and in my experience, Renshin is a good friend. She's spent a lot of time getting to know this part of the world, the Bay Area, quite well, living in it, being a native of it, and has also spent quite a lot of time getting to know a simpler and more trustworthy state of mind. And so now she will be spending some time transmitting that state of mind to us all, and I just encourage you to receive that and welcome it. Very grateful to you for doing this talk. I'm excited for you to share with our community and meet everyone and connect and have fun. All of you have fun, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Joshin. All right, so as Joshin said, I'm Renshin. I'm visiting from Maple this week. My flight is tomorrow morning. And I've had a lot of, I've been welcomed very graciously by Oak and feel very warmed by their friendship. And so I'll be talking about that later, but before we go into the talk, let's just take 10, 15 minutes to settle in and just check in with ourselves. And I invite you to find a comfortable position. You may be seated or standing or lying down or walking. Any of these positions is fine. And, feel free to obviously do what you need to do, use the restroom or grab water whenever. So the way that I'd like to do this check-in is just to first do a quick scan of your own body, your emotional body, your physical body, your energetic body. It's likely that from the day we've picked up all kinds of residue, maybe some grime from this smoky air that some of us have been breathing in, maybe just impacts from the various interactions with people. So just take some time to really settle in, check in on your state. I like to start with anything that's particularly loud or big in my body, whether it's physical or emotional or energetic. The big things call for my attention, and I am happy to lend it my attention. I invite a kind of gentleness with yourself. Treat your experience as though you're handling a delicate piece of intricate glass, whose contours you do not yet know. If that doesn't resonate much for you, another approach is to try to be a good friend to yourself. We live in challenging times, and so it's more important than ever to be a good friend to yourself. Whatever it means to be a good friend to yourself, try to do that with these next few minutes. You may have accumulated big things from today, and there may also be lots of small things. Once I really spend some quality time with the large things, often I find that it starts to melt, giving me more space and attentive power to be with the more subtle aspects of my experience. I invite you to be with both. Be with the large things taking up attention, and then if there is space, to also explore the small things that have accumulated in the body. And in this last minute, I invite you to just take a moment to appreciate that you're here right now, that you're taking time to be with yourself, to connect deeply with yourself. It's good to do some clearing. It can be hard to make that kind of time, but it can be so beneficial when we do that. And not only is it beneficial to us, but others benefit as well from our increased presence, our own awareness, our own clarity of mind and purpose. So, thank you. Well, I'm very excited to see so many faces, both new and familiar. This is my first time doing, first time trying to lead a meditation session through the internet. So that's also exciting for me. I was imagining that I would be talking mostly to people in the Bay Area, but it seems that, in fact, you guys are all over the place. I see some Canadians. Among other friends. So yeah, thanks for tuning in wherever you are. The topic I'm really excited to talk to you about today is what the Buddha has said on good friendship. What are the good types of friends? And in the Digha Nikaya, the long discourses, there's a sutra called Advice to a Lay Follower, or Advice to a Lay Person. And in it, he lists 4 types of good friends. In my own words, to keep it simple, I would describe these 4 friends as the helpful friend, the steadfast friend, the virtue-oriented friend, and the sympathetic friend. And I'm going to talk to you about each of these types, and we'll just get to first think about people in our lives who match these types of friends and feel grateful that we have that kind of person in our life. And the other thing we get to do is really look at how can we be more of that kind of friend to ourselves and to each other. And I think that in these times in particular, So as it so happens, California and I think much of the West Coast is on fire. And I've been here for about a week, and it's smoky, and going outside is terrible and nauseating, and it's rough because I still see so many people have to be out there. They still have to go out and do their work or live their lives, even under these conditions. And there's a lot of fear and worry about how the government is handling things and such. And I imagine tensions can run high, and whether we're alone or with others in our current situation, it seems critical to be good friends, to remember good friendship, and that we hold that as a value, and that society needs good friends to really function and to really move forward. So yeah, I really am excited to discuss this topic with you all and explore how we can be better friends to ourselves and each other. So I'm going to read you some words from the Buddha. All right. So I'm going to describe this first type of friend, and the Buddha has said this: the sympathetic friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. Buddhism really likes numbers. So there are 4 friends, and there are 4 ways this particular friend can be seen as a good friend. They do not rejoice at your misfortune. They rejoice at your good fortune. They stop others who speak against you, and they commend others who speak in praise of you. So I think of this friend as the friend that embodies the virtue of love, compassion, care, and kindness. They are really nice to have around when you're in hard times. They're good at reassuring you. They have the shoulder that you can cry on. They're good at being your cheerleader when you have made successes in your life or you're experiencing positive things in your life. And they'll stand up for you when in conversation. I feel particularly blessed to have sympathetic friends in my life, and one person that in particular comes to mind, her name is Sela, and she lives at Maple, the monastic academy in Vermont. And it was very meaningful to me when I was, well, let's put it this way. I'm the type of person who just like is a loner. I don't really like reach out to people for help or for sympathy. I don't like to go and find a shoulder to cry on when I need it. I just kind of like keep to myself. I go to my room and like kind of hole up, and Sela does not let me get away with any of that. She, fortunately for me, she's like my roommate, and so she's right there, and she can tell when I'm down or when I'm happy, and she just bugs me. She just jumps right in, checking in on me, offering words of kindness, and offering hugs if I need them. It's impossible to just hole up by myself when she's around. And for me, that's been really good. So let's take a moment now even to just recollect if there's anyone in our lives that meets this description, that resonates with this description of the sympathetic friend. Someone you can talk to, someone who supports you emotionally, someone who speaks well of you when you're not around. And just take a moment to appreciate them. Consider those times when they showed up for you. And maybe there's no one that comes up that matches this description. Perhaps there are times when you've been this friend to yourself, when you've had to be the friend to yourself. And you can recollect those times and appreciate yourself for doing that. And note that these friends don't have to be human. They can be animal friends. Perhaps a dog or a cat who's been there for you in tough times. Sev, I wonder if it's okay for people to kind of share, have a moment to, if anyone has any stories they'd like to share about these friends that they're thinking of. I invite one or two people to just speak in. Maybe someone in this room that I'm in, if they have anything. Is it possible to get Anna?
I have this tree friend back home.
Can you all hear?
Speak loudly. Okay, can you hear me now? I have this tree friend back at home I've spent a lot of time with. I visit it every day. And it's this giant 130-year-old beech tree, and it's always there for me. I mean, it can't move, but beyond that, I always feel very emotionally supported by this tree, by this being, and I feel understood somehow by this tree, which has embodied wisdom for so many years, so many more years than any of us have. So I always go to that tree when I need some support and give it a big hug, meditate under it, and without fail, I always feel better, understood, and loved.
Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share? Mm-hmm.
I'll go very briefly. I think they might be able to hear from the microphone. Yes. Ever since I got here at Oak, and a bit previously, I've been cultivating a relationship with God. And anytime that I feel like I need emotional support, I have been able to call upon God and bring him them. It's that cosmic energy being thing into my awareness, and just really embrace the unconditional love that can be found there. And it's been a deepening relationship and very emotionally supporting for me.
Great.
Yes.
That's
and,
awesome.
That's a surprise too. Prior to that, I would have never expected that to happen. But here I am. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. So let's talk about the next kind of good friend. Also, there are a lot of ant friends wandering around on my sheet of paper and around. So the second type of friend, the Buddha says, the helpful friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They look after you when you are inattentive. They look after your possessions when you are inattentive. They keep you safe in times of danger. And when some business is to be done, they let you have twice what you ask for. I see this friend as embodying the virtue of generosity. They're generous with their time, their energy, and with their resources. And when I read this, I'm like, wow, someone who's willing to give you twice what you ask for, that's, where can I find that these days? That's an insane amount of generosity. At least, from my own life experience, it feels like I've lived in a lot of cultures and a lot of communities where it feels kind of like everyone's out for themselves. Everyone kind of has to be on the lookout for themselves, their own resources. Like, I mean, it's even hard asking friends to borrow money sometimes. or borrow other resources, like can I use your car, or can I sleep over? And in some ways, I've had friends who are generous in this way, but it also comes with sort of this implicit like give and take vibe where I feel like I'm obligated then to give back in some way. I have to repay them in some way. Like I owe them a favor now, if they give me a favor. And there's just this underlying, for me in my life, this underlying assumption that you're supposed to take care of your own and I'm supposed to take care of my own. And it's not like we all have this shared pool that we can all draw from. It's not like my resources are your resources and your resources are my resources. I kind of have to almost negotiate sometimes with people in my life. And it's not even like they're not generous people, but it's just this sort of cultural underlying sense that you're not like, I own my things and you own your things. And when I think of people who do exhibit this kind of like generosity with their time, energy, and resources, the examples that come to mind are parents, usually just people's parents. You know, I have this image in my mind of a kid asking their mom for some money, and the mom is just like, oh, just have what you need, whatever you need, you can have it, go and, spend it how you want. Of course, not everyone's parents are like this, but if I try to look for examples of this kind of friend, it's that kind of image comes up. So it seems that it's rare to have this kind of friend outside of family. And to me, that feels like a diminished world somehow. Like it'd be nice if there were more people who could freely give, and we didn't have to worry so much about what's fair, how to give in a way that's gonna end up giving us a return on some investment later. And when I look at the world, many of the good things that have come are because of people's generosity, because they gave without any expectation of anything in return. They gave way more than they got back in terms of material wealth. There's just some people who, there's just people putting in and not necessarily getting out. And I think that's kind of how a lot of good things have come about. And I think that's just going to be how it has to be. So this virtue of generosity, this being the helpful friend, the person who offers to help you move when you didn't ask them to, the person who, you might be struggling and they offer you a room, they offer you food, they offer you money, the person who offers to house sit your cat for you or your dog. The person who's just willing to do whatever it takes, the person who's willing to put in a lot of effort and energy into the connection, the friendship. This person doesn't want to give up. I feel very blessed to have these kinds of friends, these generous friends in my life. So maybe we'll take a moment to consider friends, beings who've been there for us in this way, and send them some love, send them some appreciation. Maybe it is your parents. That's cool. Maybe, huh? Yeah, I can read the description again. The helpful friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They look after you when you are inattentive. They look after your possessions when you are inattentive. They keep you safe in times of danger. And when some business is to be done, they let you have twice what you ask for. So just take a moment to send them some love, whoever these beings may be. And I can take a moment to share some stories. I have one. I had a friend when I lived in Seattle who explicitly bought a pickup truck because they love to help people move. They really helped people. They really like to help people lug things around. And they helped me move, and they've helped many other friends move. And I like that they bought a pickup truck for this reason. I wonder if anyone else has other stories they want to share. You can raise your hand or something if you want to be called on. Yes?
Hi, I'm Pam. I had no idea who was going to come to mind when you started. And 2 people have really come to mind, but also I live a 12-step way of life, and that's what we try to do in 12-step for each other. I think what you're talking about, we don't give up, we go the extra mile, we help people move, those kind of things. But the person that's really come to mind, besides my dad, is my friend Stacy, who's my editor. I don't like to write, and I need to. And she makes it fun. I ask her for a half an hour. She gives me 3 hours. She won't give up. She won't let me quit the project. And she's also sympathetic in that she reminds me of things I've gotten through before. So I care very much for her, and I had no idea she was going to pop up like this. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. That was fun. Is there anyone else? Yes, Seishin.
Hi, I do actually have one, but Yuli over here had his hand raised, so maybe he can share his instead.
Okay.
Or in addition.
So this has been a really fun one. My life turns out to be completely full of incredibly generous people. And the person who was most salient on my mind, though I could probably come up with 5 or 6 examples now, is a guy named Ryan DeMarco, who I've known since high school. And this guy used to feed me when I was in high school. Like back when, I've been poor for most of my life, and so there were times where I didn't have like the income to sort of be able to get basic necessities. And this guy would just invite me over to his house, and like part of what we would do is we would just eat lunch together out of his fridge. And this was like a daily thing. And I've known him for a very long time, and he even recently messaged me, and it was so funny. One of the things he said in the message was just like, "Yuli, how are you doing? Are you eating all right?" So I feel incredibly blessed and so happy to know people like him. I'm so happy that people like him are like exist and that are just giving, because that's who they are. It's amazing.
Am I muted or not? Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. I loved hearing those. Okay, great. Let's go to the next type of good friend, the steadfast friend. Or, well, the Buddha describes this as the friend who is the same in happy and unhappy times. So this kind of friend can be seen to be good in 4 ways. They tell you their secrets. They guard your secrets. They do not let you down in misfortune. They would even sacrifice their life for you. So this is an interesting combination of characteristics, but the virtue that I imagine this to embody is the dependability. So a friend who keeps their commitments, does what they said they would do. It's tricky to guard secrets. I've personally had some struggle with this. You know, there's some things that I shouldn't say, but I really kind of want to say, but like I shouldn't say it. So to be able to really do that is to be able to have that like rock solid nature. That nature that's just not going to move with whatever comes at you. Temptation. You know, maybe you have people who want to harm you or take advantage of you in some way, and this friend just kind of like acts as that wall. They just like aren't going to let. They're not going to be manipulated by anyone to get at you. And another quality of this friend, I imagine, is just that they are your friend no matter what. Like deep down, even if you're having a disagreement with this person, you might be having some turmoil in the relationship, but even then they'll guard your secrets. They won't let you down in misfortune. They'll be there for you when you really need it. They won't turn their back on you. So no matter what's going on in themselves, in the relationship, in the world, they're going to be your friend and you can depend on them and you don't have to worry, basically, that this person's going to turn around and change their tone. They're just on your side and you know that. And so you can rely on them for that. The cultures that I've grown up around in, and maybe I'm making it sound like I grew up in some terrible cultures, but I mean, there's just, for me, I think I've lived a life of moving from place to place, never quite settling down, and the kinds of people that I would befriend are kind of the same kind of person. They just kind of uproot, they're nomadic, they're They follow their whims somewhat, you know, they just kind of go where they feel called. They do what's best for them primarily. And this worked for me for a long time, but in many ways was not ideal, which I would find out later. But for me, being this kind of person in this day and age is just very difficult. It's just very difficult. Things are just changing all the time, very quickly. And people are moving. There's so many options for what I could do with my life, who I could be spending time with, who I could be friends with, who I could be partners with, which group house I live in, you know, what job I have. There's so many ways I can make these choices in my life that it's just somehow harder to be a steadfast friend through all of that. It's hard to be there for the people in a consistent, reliable way that they know they can lean on me even years from now. It's just like hard to do that. And so in some ways, a steadfast friend in these times is really going against the grain of what society incentivizes. And for people who've never had a steadfast friend in their life, it's maybe difficult to imagine why there would be so much value to having such a person. I mean, I've just uprooted so many times that I don't even know if I have solid examples of someone who's really been there for me. But there are people in my life who show up in the various aspects of steadfastness in ways, and even that much, even just a little bit of that is very valuable. I seem to go to them a lot for support because I know that they're available. I know that they're not going to turn me away. And so it's really nice having such people. So let's just take a moment to consider who in our lives, what friends, what humans, what beings, what entities have been there for us through unhappy and happy times. I'll read the description again. The steadfast friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They tell you their secrets. They guard your secrets. They do not let you down in misfortune. They would even sacrifice their life for you. So for me, a person who comes to mind, I have this friend named Dima, and I think they've explicitly told me that they would sacrifice their life for me if it came down to it. But one demonstration of, well, it's both a demonstration of their generosity, but also their steadfastness. Maple was struck with COVID-19 back in March. Basically, like a bunch of us got sick, and it was fearful times, and there was a lot of worry and anxiety and concern. And I think as soon as Dima heard that that was happening, they just immediately told me something like, if you need help with medical expenses, like no questions asked, like, you know, I'll take care of you. So I really appreciate Dima for that. To have that kind of friend, it feels really like a great blessing. I wonder if anyone else has any stories of steadfast friends they'd like to share. Oh, Vienna has one. Great.
So when I was contemplating those qualities, I did not expect this, but
Can you guys hear okay?
okay.
A little louder.
Yeah, a friend of mine from Malaysia came to mind. His name is Zito. And back when I was in Malaysia, I used to organize like electoral reform movement. And there was an unprecedented protest that I was a part of that was known to be very dangerous. Like you might lose like a limb or something, like or you could be detained and imprisoned for life for going. And this is a Buddhist friend of mine from the youth camps that we used to organize together. And upon hearing that, he's like, Vienna, I really don't want to go, but if you're going, I'm going. And he said, like, you know, he has heard stories about how there's going to be like really violent counter-protest groups showing up with swords and whatnot. And he's like a mixed martial artist, like a buff guy. And he's like, I will do whatever I can to protect your life. I'm going with you, like no question. You cannot say no. So we show up that day, and not in the same form that he thought the danger was going to be, but we were tear gas in a tunnel with the same military grade tear gas that killed 33 Palestinians. And we were stuck in the tunnel for a long time. And during that process, like we were breathing in acidic gas that really makes you feel like your lungs is going to burst from the inside. And I think at one point I was in so much pain that I was like, I will do anything to get out of this suffering. Like, this is too much pain for me. Maybe I'll die like the next moment. I don't know what's going to happen the next moment anymore. I can't breathe. There's no air. There's no oxygen. I'm breathing more, but it's hurting myself even more. So in that, I became unconscious. Like, and he like dragged me out of the tunnel into this through this underground door to a construction site, and that's where we could breathe again. And like he told me that, hey, Vienna, we like almost died. I was like, yeah, if I hadn't had him that day, I don't know where I'm going to be. So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm feeling a lot. Thank you for sharing. Mm. Mm. Let's just take a few moments to really sink in to our current experience. I notice I feel appreciation for Vienna's friend and for the way that he showed up that day. Mm. So I'm actually going to have us do a quick break right now if people need to use the bathroom or get some drink or whatever is needed. So let's just take about 4 to 5 minutes, and I'll let all the people in this room also get up if they want to stretch. So I'll hit the bell. That seems good. Welcome back. So this fourth type of friend, I feel how do I feel? It's like renewed vigor for this kind of friendship. It's like I have this new understanding about this kind of friendship that is so important to me now that in a way before I had no idea. I had no idea how important this kind of friend was, and I'm very excited to talk about it with you. So this is what the Buddha said about this fourth type of good friend. The virtue-oriented friend, or you could say the wise friend or the mentor friend, can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They keep you from wrongdoing. They support you in doing good. They inform you of what you did not know, and they point out the path to heaven. The virtue that I believe this friend embodies is wisdom and faith. It's so important in ways that I could not conceive to have a friend who believes in you, who believes that you can do it, who believes that you can in fact embody your values, can embody moral goodness, and who doesn't see you as stuck, doesn't see you as a fixed point, who doesn't see you as a dead end, who doesn't see you as they're always just going to be like that, and there's no point to offering them feedback or offering them words of advice or help in their personal development. So one thing that I think I've really missed out on in this life is having someone who could see the me that I couldn't see in myself. The person who could see that, in fact, I have everything that I need to be a good person. I have everything that I need to become a better person. And I have, fundamental goodness. Someone who can see that I'm not just this personality that they see in front of them. They somehow have the vision and the faith to see the version of me that I can't imagine for myself. The person who I think I should be, but obviously I can't. And I see this friend as incredibly courageous and brave because they're the person who's willing to call me out on my own crap. Like, it could be even a small thing, right? Like if I'm trying to avoid sugar in my diet, for instance, and I am presented with like a donut and I am like going back and forth, like, well, did I really want to avoid sugar? It's fine this one time. I'll take the hit. It's fine. I'll just let it go. I really want this donut. And that friend who can be there and remind me of my higher self in that moment, and remind me like, wait a second, are you sure? Are you sure you want to do that? I have a friend who's very good at being this for me at Maple. You may know him as Herschel. Some of you know him. His name is Herschel. He goes by Ninsan now. But basically, whenever I'm feeling like tempted by food or video games or watching TV and just vegging out, or like doing something kind of unproductive with my time, or, you know, going after, like using my free time in ways that aren't the wisest, he'll, with a huge grin on his face that takes over his entire being, he'll be like, is that going to make you happy? And I'll just I'm in my like wishy-washy state, and I'm just kind of like, maybe. And he's like, are you sure? And I know he's right in that moment. This donut is not going to make me happy, really. It's not going to ease my suffering. It's just a temporary escape, a lapse in judgment. It's not what my higher self would want me to do in this moment. And I have, in fact, techniques for how to do something better with my time and my mind, better patterns to follow. And he knows that very well for himself. And so he is adamantly trying to be that friend for me in those moments. And it's so good. It's so good to have someone who's willing to give you feedback. And it can even be for much more serious things in our life, like major life decisions, like who we partner with, who we marry, or choices around our job, whether our livelihood is in line with our ethics and our values, the kinds of people and activities we surround ourselves with. All of these things have such a huge impact on our moral character. And it can be really hard to see that when it's the water that we're swimming in constantly. And for much of my life, it was just the norm to do things that were kind of bad, like morally sketchy, just letting it slide, like can range from like not calling back the person that we said we would call back, ghosting someone that we're in a relationship with and just kind of trying to fade them out, not paying someone back for something that we owe them, accidentally damaging someone's vehicle and not leaving a note. I mean, there's so many realms of ways that it's easy to just try and get away from doing the thing that we know is right and wholesome. And I think part of the huge problem we face in modern times is just we don't have enough of this kind of friend. We don't have enough of the kind of morally brave friend who's willing to stand up for our higher self. And I feel super grateful that I found the Monastic Academy in Vermont, just because that's like one container that I found that really doesn't let you get away with any of that. You can't get away with that. The structure is built to make it hard to fall into those patterns, to backslide. So it actually becomes easier for people at Maple to be this kind of friend to each other. It's the thing that's incentivized. It's the thing that's strongly encouraged, and we hold that as a high value. And the thing that I'm so excited about right now is just spreading the good word that you can just do this. You can just do this for people in your life. You can just be this kind of friend for each other. Like, you don't need a monastic container to just stand up for yourself, your values, your friends' values. You basically know already, like, what's wholesome, what's not wholesome. These are the terms the Buddha uses when he talks about right effort. What's wholesome, what's not wholesome, what's good, what's not good, what's kind of sketchy, that feeling of twinge of conscience that we get in those moments when we kind of slip into patterns of letting ourselves get away with something. And I think in these times, it would be really encouraging to me the more people sort of just realize, like, you know what, actually, like, I need to change the way I live. I need to change the way I show up for other people. Times are rough, times are real bad, and people are walking into stores and taking things. People are just breaking into cars and homes and taking things. People are lying all over the place. And the best way that I know how to stem that tide, that cultural pressure towards moral backsliding, is to stand up for myself. When I know I'm doing something I shouldn't do, just know that in myself, like, I know that I can do the thing that's right in this moment. And when I see other people backsliding in any way, it can, in that moment, it can feel awkward to say anything. It can feel kind of like it's not my business, or who am I? Maybe I'm misjudging them. Maybe it's not my place. It's going to create a difficult conversation, basically, or it could be an amazing conversation as well, but I don't know. And so in my hesitation, I kind of don't. But in those sorts of moments, I really want to invite everyone, all of us, to try doing the thing that takes more courage, that takes more bravery. And I know that when I've done that in my own life, it's turned out, in many times, it's just turned out to be great. And even if they get mad at me in that moment, a day later, a week later, people have turned around and messaged me and been like, thanks for having that conversation with me. It helped me see something that I was avoiding. I didn't realize that about myself. I really needed someone else to show me that, because I don't want to be that way. I want to be, I want to work on myself. I want to work on myself in that way. It's ultimately who I want to be. That's ultimately who I strive to aim to be. And so thank you for helping me with that. So let's just take a moment now to consider who in our lives we can use as role models or think of as people who've really been this type of friend for us. I'll read the description again. The virtue-oriented friend, the wise friend, can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They keep you from wrongdoing. They support you in doing good. They inform you of what you did not know, and they point out the path to heaven. So just take a moment to consider who is like that in our lives. Send them some appreciation. Does anyone have any stories that they'd like to share about this kind of friend? You can raise your hand if you have anything. Zev?
I have a friend named Josh, and he had the place I was living. He had long-term loaned a couch to us, and I subsequently moved out, and I had forgotten that it was a long-term loan. I thought he just gave us the couch. It just had slipped my mind, and he subsequently saw like a Facebook post where the housemates that I formerly lived with were giving away a bunch of stuff, his couch among them. And luckily he saw the post and he was able to rescue the couch. But then he sent me a message afterward and said, hey, just so you know, they were going to get rid of the couch that I had loaned you. I was at first kind of, like I felt this discomfort, like I didn't know what to say. I was kind of defensive, like, oh, and then I like realized, oh, he's trying to help me here. He's trying to tell me where I had messed up. And when I made that shift, I became really appreciative that he had pointed out exactly where I'd messed up. And I thanked him for it and was able to turn it around and say, I hope you were able to get the couch back. Is there anything I can do to help with? I don't remember whether I said that or not, but I turned it into this different frame of you're just trying to help me, and that felt good that he was doing that for me.
Great. Is there someone with their hand up there? Oh no. Yes?
He's scratching his head.
Is it Bob? Rob? Bob? Are you raising your hand, Bob? No. No. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Well, I, for one, sure am glad for our head teacher, Soryu, for being this kind of friend. In this same sutra, the Buddha says that, the class of people who call themselves Brahmins or ascetics, or this is basically a term for like spiritual people. It's really their job. It's their role in society to be this kind of friend. And Sorry really demonstrates that here at both Maple and Oak. And it's very obvious because anytime I go into a one-on-one interview with him, he basically refuses to see anything but my highest self. It's the only self that he'll respond to. And this is very valuable to have at least one person who's willing to do that, even though it's quite challenging at times. Great. Okay, so we are at 3:28. I'm going to read the descriptions over again, and in the last just few minutes before we jump into a more open Q&A or discussion or whatever it is, I want us to, and there's so many ways to do this. You could either like pick one of the 4 types, or you could contemplate all 4, but really think of like, what can I do to cultivate more of these qualities in myself? Like, how do I more show up as either the helpful friend, the steadfast friend, the wise friend, or the sympathetic friend? Yes, so I'll just read the descriptions over again, and we can all just spend a few minutes contemplating ways we can show up more in these ways. The sympathetic friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They do not rejoice at your misfortune. They rejoice at your good fortune. They stop others who speak against you, and they commend others who speak in praise of you. Okay, I'll read the next one. The helpful friend can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They look after you when you are inattentive. They look after your possessions when you are inattentive. They keep you safe in times of danger. And when some business is to be done, they let you have twice what you ask for. And I'll read the next one, and we'll just consider ways we can develop these qualities in ourselves. The steadfast friend, who is the same in happy and unhappy times, can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They tell you their secrets. They guard your secrets. They do not let you down in misfortune. They would even sacrifice their life for you. Okay, and the last one. The virtue-oriented friend who points out what is good for you can be seen to be a good friend in 4 ways. They keep you from wrongdoing. They support you in doing good. They inform you of what you did not know, and they point out the path to heaven. Okay, I don't know how we do this next part, but it's a Q&A? Okay, great. How do people indicate they have things to share?
They either just unmute themselves directly or raise their hand.
Okay, great. All right.
Also, experience reports are often welcome.
Yes, yes. So this is a time to share experiences of how that was, or ask questions, or share what feels alive. So feel free to jump in. Yes. Christina.
Christine.
Christine.
Hi, I wanted to bring this up with the first sympathetic friend, but then I wanted to listen to all four before I brought it up. But I have this round, well, it's a dish that I bought at a garage sale in the middle of California one day, but it's so meaningful to me and it's always on my wall. And it says, "Where good friends gather, troubles fly away." And it's these two little girls with their arm around each other. But I always noticed that that when I'm with the friends that have these, almost all four of these characteristics, they're in this area of good friends. Like, and when you're with that good friend, your troubles can just literally fly away because they support you in so many areas. So just wanted to tell you, I have this plaque on my wall all the time and I look at it and it just reminds me that if things get really bad, just turn to a friend and they will help you out of it in some way. And then there was one other thing I noticed at the end is I feel like I'm this kind of friend in all four categories with my children. It's such a powerful friendship that you know, I don't really want to cry about it, but it just feels like it's such a strong friendship. You would sacrifice your life for them. And it's not sad, it's just so strong, the friendship between mothers and children. I'm not sad, I'm just happy to realize it today, and I appreciate the friendship of all of you that I can share this with you and turn my camera off when I feel tearful. But thank you, because it's all really good to kind of dissect friendship this way and realize there's so many aspects to friends and how powerful good friends really are. So thank you.
Thank you for being a good friend yourself. Yeah. Yes, Willow?
Yeah, that was a beautiful share to be right before mine, because what was on my mind when I was listening to all four descriptions was, oh wow, my parents are like my best friends. They really, like, yeah, every single one was like, yeah, they do that. Yeah, totally. Yeah, they, in a lot of ways, they have already given their lives for me, you know. So it's cool to like expand the definition, I guess, of friend. I also learned I can be friends with trees. Beautiful. I have so many more friends than I did 2 hours ago. Thank you. Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. And if anyone at Oak wants to say anything, you are welcome as well. Yes, Kyle?
Yeah. That most recent share and Willow made me realize that I was trying to think of a steadfast friend earlier in the meditation. And I also felt like I've uprooted myself way too many times to really have somebody who's been an anchor like that for me. And then in that last share, I realized, oh my gosh, yeah, my parents, particularly my father, and the steadfast friend front. He's just, we've had a contentious relationship we disagree on many things and are different in many ways, yet he has always been undyingly devoted to the relationship and will go, do 10 times what I ask for at any moment. And he always emphasizes, call at any time for anything. I will be here to support you always. And I'm just sort of, just taking stock that I didn't think of him during that, and sort of navigating that. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. It's wonderful to realize. Yeah. Pam.
It's just too tempting to not speak here. Christine, I'm sure you know how touched I am with what you shared, and I have seen that in you. And I thought I'd share two other thoughts. One, this isn't what my acquaintances and I usually think of as friends. My acquaintances or coworkers think of people that hang out together or do that kind of stuff. And I love the way we're speaking about friends, which brings to mind a story that it's just so tempting to tell this group. I met Soryu about, 20 years ago at his first Shinzen retreat, and was taken with him before I even heard him speak. And at that time, he was allowing 1-hour interviews because nobody knew him. And one of the first things he told me, I forget what I was worried about, was that the key, I'll make it short, the key to prolonged practice, prolonged sustained practice is friends, not techniques, not discipline, not knowledge, not pushing yourself beyond your limits, but having other friends that are doing the practice. And I just give that to you as a tribute to what you've become for me over the last few months. Thank you.
Thank you. Willow has one? Yes?
I guess I'm a big fan of the civilizational design, game B, long-termist kind of crowds, like maybe Daniel Schmachtenberger and Jordan Hall, and sort of thinking about the long-term future of civilization and trying to design that. And that's a thing I really have that powerfully speaks to me across Willow and the monastic traditions as we're involved in them, and these other crowds. And one of the interesting things that I see there is that the message is constantly reiterated here and there that the most important thing is friendship. That if you have to boil it all down into a single thing that actually stands for all the beauty and complexity and hardship of how to live right, be a good friend. And that's one half of the thought. But I want to add something else to that as well. I noticed that as I was thinking through my different relationships through this talk, which has been amazing, by the way, thank you. I noticed that there are some sort of like historical differences between some of my friends that like cause, I think, sort of different things to be valued in different circles. Like for me, there's a lot of people who grew up really rough lifestyles, and for them, dependability is absolutely everything. And that's sort of like the metric for who is and who isn't capable of being a friend. And then there's other circles who have like actually a much more dominant metric in another side. And it's like all these groups of people that I know, they all value the four things we're talking about, but there's really a dominant thing in some of these groups. And so I was thinking about how this training, I think, is a really helpful, how it enables us to do that which connects us to the ability to do all four things, to think about our shared humanity, like the whole species as a whole, and to think about the sorrows and pains and woes of each individual, and to have deep intimacy with each individual, and to have faith in that individual's future. And it's like to train the mind in all these ways and to live and be that friend here to enable us to actually do all four things is just really hitting me hard and making me think about how it's possible for me here and for our community here and for all the groups of the people I've been thinking of to be doing this work and collectively flourishing, even though we start out with maybe some dominant side and then we actually flourish out.
That is very well put.
Yes.
Very well put. Yeah, just to reiterate on that, I have so much faith that everyone can improve in all four ways of being a good friend. And I've seen a lot of impressive improvements at Maple of just individuals growing in even just one of the areas of friendship, even though it may have been their weakest quadrant. So I feel a lot of faith and hope that it's definitely possible, and really great to see that kind of striving and improvement in people, even over short periods of time, like a year. Renee, did you have something?
Thanks, Renshin. Yeah. I'm sure it's so obvious and so apparent, but this is exactly what moves me to be part of Maple as the village, to move into that community, because whenever I am in that community, all of this is manifest. I see these types of friends growing and deepening in those connections. And in my life, there's been, decades and hundreds, thousands of people that we would call friends in this sort of hanging out kind of friendship that I think Pam may have alluded to. And throughout, there's been this sort of, here we are rugged individuals. This is how we show up. And that individualism, as I think Tashin pointed out last week, I think he made a big point of that individualism breaks down connection, ignores connection. And when that's the case, friendship, it just doesn't seem that important. And so these qualities that you've talked about today, the Buddha gave us to look at, this is what I see in this community, and this is what I aspire to, and this is what I'm so joyful about being able to support. So thank you for bringing that into my life and allowing that connection to grow.
Thank you. I look forward to being able to live in proximity with you and your demonstration of friendship in all these areas as well. Yeah.
This is Zev speaking. I found the categorization really helpful to break down. I strive to be a good friend to a lot of people. And this categorization really brought into focus which ways I think I do pretty well, which ways I don't do so well. It was very interesting to look at the different characteristics within each category and say, oh yeah, I do that one. Oh, but I don't do that one. That one's not the one that I really do. And so I found that very helpful. I also found it really striking how often friends from Maple and Oak would come to mind. You know, and maybe that's because of the teaching of the Buddha, and we teach the teachings of the Buddha. But it's true that a lot of the people here are really good friends in a lot of ways, and I'm really grateful for that.
And just to add on to that, I think like something about the container makes it really easy to be more of a good friend. And I would have to admit that before I came to Maple and really lived in that sort of space where everyone's being so good to each other, like I was not a good friend in many ways. I was flaky and looking after my own interests and not generous and just not steadfast, not but it was so much. The environment makes a huge difference, and if I'm like burnt out because I'm tired of my job and it's demoralizing or something, or I'm in a depressive state, then and there's no supports, there's like very little support system around me, then like how can I really expect myself to uphold these values or these characteristics? It's like an Atlassian task, just like holding the whole world up on my own two shoulders. It's just, I don't want to ask that of anybody to do it on their own. But also, I mean, not everyone gets to be at a place like Maple or Oak too. And so how do we spread this? How do we grow those seeds? How do we sow those seeds in this soil that is so barren? And that's like that's an open question for me. Yeah, because I think it's important to spread these good qualities and make it easier for people to live by these qualities, even when it's so challenging and when it's not fertile ground for these qualities to develop. It's really easy to not be helpful, steadfast, wise, and loving in this kind of world that we live in. And really want to invite that question to all you guys. And I think that's going to be it for us at this time. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for this sit. Yeah. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe trip back to
Thank you. Thank you, friends.